So the thing is, I don't have, unfortunately, because here's the phone. Thank you so much, by the way. What's your where you come from? New York. Okay, I just want to know because when I go home and see you call me, I don't want to. I want to call you back.
That's okay.
Okay, no, the thing is, I left my son, my 8-year-old son isn't feeling good.
You left your text.
Oh, someone texted me?
Yes. You're 305,
my
right?
wife did. Okay. How do I do that?
Oh, you just
Okay, that's it?
yeah, just press it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much. Yeah, so what happened was my 8-year-old wasn't feeling good. I couldn't find the house phone. You know, it's like a cordless phone. So, would it be possible to use the phone just 2 times? Okay.
Yeah.
Use it ahead of time? Okay, ahead of time.
Yeah, it does.
Great, thanks so much. So what happened was that I basically, I was in a big rush. I left my son. I didn't want to leave him without a phone, a kid, a child.
Right.
So I left it with my cell phone. That's why. So I had all the questions written on my cell phone. She texted me all your questions.
It's alright.
So I can't really remember exactly.
That's okay, because we know our questions.
It was everyone's questions, and we're only 2 girls.
Yes,
but
I
they
think
weren't
that
they weren't
90%
listening.
were ours.
Okay, so what I focused on, most of your questions, there's one or two questions I wasn't really comfortable with, and I wanted to maybe do a whole class about it. But if you mind,
Which is?
You'll tell me the question. I'll remember
Okay.
which one it is. Okay.
All right.
I don't know. I said something that I wanted to review with clean, reshod, and shaving, and
Okay.
I want to go a little bit more deeper, all the rules, like you had water in your cup, but then you want to fill it up with hot water, and all those types of rules. Keep those rules confusing.
Okay. That's what else?
I think, do you have sign number?
I do. Window.
The other one,
Siri.
the first question would be, where does Chabad? Hello. Oh. Thank you. There's also a bris going on. Where does Chabad hold? It's okay. Where does Chabad hold on Shabbos? As in, does it all have to be done before Shabbos, or can you do it on Shabbos if you use the powders? Some say Chabad doesn't hold no makeup on Shabbos, but you can do it before Shabbos.
Okay, that was one of the questions I remember that I didn't want to discuss today because I'm not. My knowledge is that there are a lot of halachic problem issues with makeup.
Right.
My wife doesn't wear makeup on Shabbos.
Okay, she puts it on before.
Before Shabbos, right?
Okay.
Now I did hear there's something called Shabbos makeup. Just like there's something called the Shabbos toothbrush nowadays.
Right.
So I'm not. I can talk about the toothbrush.
If you could talk about the toothbrush, that would be great.
Okay, so but the makeup thing, I'm not quite sure what the heck it is. But what I can do is I can research for you more and get back to you another time about that.
Okay.
I never put on makeup that way.
Yes. Okay. So we can but I just want to make sure that they're easy.
Right.
Most of the time I'm running around Patty, but I just want to know because you're all these other things.
Right.
Yes,
so,
but Shabbos too.
The thing about the toothbrush is the toothbrush is really it's not so clear cut what's wrong with toothbrush. We know that the one thing we know for sure the problem with toothbrush is that a toothbrush is used with toothpaste. Toothpaste is definitely could fall into the category of a malacha, which is you're taking a solid or a thick substance like a paste, and you're making it into a liquid, and that would be like we say that's what we call moichek, or you're like literally erasing, but more like you're taking like for example a bar of soap. You can't use a bar of soap on Shabbos,
right?
But you're taking something solid, and you're taking it down into a liquid. And you should close it because it's a little bit.
Oh yeah.
There's not a problem with liquid because it's two and it's also unlocked in the daytime and so.
And there's windows. Yes, that's why it was open.
Windows windows I don't would be a bit over here because it's not level and stuff. But yeah, it could be that's another possible happen.
Because
yeah, for sure, but not a problem for sure.
Right.
Anyways, so the thing is like this. The thing is that let's see, what was I saying again?
Toothpaste, because you're going from a solid to a liquid.
Right. So
Depends on the.
So the thing is like this. The thing is is that from my knowledge, everyone concurs that toothpaste is a problem on Shabbos. There's the more lenient opinion says there's something called Shabbos toothpaste, or which is a liquid already, which is not a solid in the first place. The thing that Rabbi Feinstein said years ago, before we had this incredible invention of a liquid toothpaste, was that we had a concept of he said that you buy a new toothbrush and you never use it with toothpaste, so that technically the toothbrush never became a kli shalach d'isa. The whole thing about muktzah, one of the things of muktzah is one of the types of the lesser type of muktzah is something called a kli shalach d'isa, which means it's a vessel which is used for something that's prohibited on Shabbos. For example, a pencil. A pencil is something that is used for writing, which is a malacha. Therefore, you can't touch it on Shabbos because it's a kli shalach d'isa. It's a kli, it's a vessel which is used for a prohibited purpose. Now, therefore, a toothbrush would technically have the same status, based on pretty much most halachic opinion authorities. Now, the way around that, according to Rabbi Feinstein, was not to use toothpaste. If you don't use toothpaste, then if you use toothpaste ever, then your toothbrush becomes a kli shalach d'isa even once. Right? Just like if you take, in other words, a utensil and use it, write with it once. Well, pencil really is made for being a pencil, so even if you ever wrote with it, it's already considered a kli shalach d'isa. We find this halacha, for example, a toilet. A toilet that was made and never used. It was never used. A brand new toilet, never used. So the concept of not being able to say Shema, or not being able to say a bracha or daven in front of the toilet, for most cases doesn't begin because it never was used as it never was. Maybe unless it was already dead. Okay, that's not so. I'm not so 100% sure about that, but I know that there's definitely that concept for sure. At least one opinion holds that if the toilet was never used, it was never designated. It doesn't yet have the status of what we call gashel day. So, similar to that, it's a kind of a different topic. That's more, not so much. That's more. But we have the same idea that if the toothbrush was never used with toothpaste, technically according to Moshe Feinstein, it never became a kli shalach d'isa. And that means not even once, not even ever once having been used for that purpose, and therefore he says that there's a heter for this. Now, does everyone do this? No. Not all Rabbanim agree with this stuff. What exactly is the kosher type of toothbrush that they say is a Shabbos toothbrush? So I'm not really sure I'm not really sure the difference of, I know there is a difference of maybe of different.
I think it's the bristles.
Yeah.
I know
it's just so you don't
rubber
soft.
bristles.
They're softer.
They're softer.
Okay.
They're not.
Your gums bleed.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's the other issue is making
That's right. So that's another issue. That's definitely an issue also. That's why it said, for example, flossing is a problem regardless because if you're flossing down, you're touching the gum, so that's something definitely might sit down. This would be absolutely right. This would be different because it's softer. So therefore, that's another issue that would rise up. So that would be right. But the thing is, even if it's soft, you still have to be careful not to use with toothpaste because then whether it's soft or not, it's still a kli shalach d'isa. So
it has to do with either no toothpaste or with mouthwash or
right.
Shabbos.
Well, I'm not sure. I think that I'm not a posek. I'm not someone who's not this is something I would say a shaila for your community rabbi and rav because a rav I'm saying because I don't know if even then I don't know if it is something that all opinions agree, and I would still check on with who because I'm not really I've never used it. We never used it, and I don't know any other Chabad families who do use it. That doesn't mean it's not good.
Right.
I would just say that it's something that I would definitely ask for Rav before I would use it.
Right, but the halacha is clear on. Let's see. Certainly, you can't use a tube of toothpaste because you'd be squeezing. Then you can't use the toothpaste because you're turning solid to liquid. So whether it's a gel or a paste, that's the next. And then if you're going to use a toothbrush, at the very least, it can't be one that's been used with toothpaste at any other point in time.
Right.
So no matter what, these hurdles exist no matter you.
Right. And
if you can get here, then you can.
Right, but also the other thing you'd want to add also that if you're prone to bleeding.
Bleeding, right.
Yeah, that's for sure another issue. Too.
Right.
Because I know.
That was the other one. Sorry.
That's for sure another issue too. Because there's something called we say if you know something's going to happen, even though you're not. Even though on Shabbos there's something we say called it's lechas machshavas. It's only something you have. It's a belacha that you're not miskaber, you don't have in mind to do it.
Right.
So you're not necessarily. You're not necessarily violating. Like, for example, if you're whatever you're doing something that through this, let's say the problem of walking on wet grass. According to some opinions, but it depends. But the thing is, you're watering the grass by touching down, whatever it is. So that even though you're not having in mind to do it, but still, if it's happening regardless, that's why, for example, it says in Machlokes you're not allowed to move a heavy object on the dirt because you're making tracks. It's chodesh. You're like plowing the dirt. You're making a ditch in the dirt as you move it. And even though Rabbi Shimon says you're not, Rabbi Shimon says you're allowed to because the keep asking that we don't. No, you're not having kavanah. You don't want that ditch. But he agrees that if it's a psik reisha, if it's something that must happen. In other words, for example, it says if you're playing with a bird and you decide it's kind of a gross example, but let's say you cut the head of the bird off, play with it. You didn't have in mind to kill it. You just wanted to play with the head of the bird. So that's what we say psik reisha. It's cutting off the head and it's not your diamond. That's obviously shchita. You're killing the animal. And that's an avolacha regardless of what your kavanah was. So likewise over here, if you're brushing the teeth and the blood doesn't come out, then that's an issue, even though you don't want the blood to come out.
Right, it kind of is different than say you're going to cut a cucumber with a knife and you accidentally cut yourself. You have no intention.
Right, well, that's
you really would like to avoid cutting yourself with
a knife. No,
but it's an accident.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing. That's an oinus. That's like not even. That's for sure. There was no prohibition there. A lot of people always say to me like, do I have to do tshuva if I accidentally bumped into the light and turned the light on? Is that like do I have to do tshuva for that? So the answer is no, because that's not, you had no kavanah for that at all. You didn't even want to do it. So that's not a violation of Shabbos. If you had forgotten it was Shabbos for a second and turned it on, it's Shabbos, why did I just do that, right? Or if you did it as a habitual thing, like you walk into the house, you flick on the light, that would be something that you could say, okay, I should do tshuva for that. You didn't do it on purpose, but you accidentally did it, right? But if something you did, that was just done by your body without intention of actually doing it, that's not. There was no issa there. There was no malacha. There was no action. It was a passive thing. You had no intention at all. What we're talking about if you're intending to do something, but you're not. You're intending one thing and something else is coming out of it. Like I want to move my heavy table on the ground to get it from point A to point B. I don't want to make a ditch. Right? So making the ditch is like you're creating a ditch, but that's not what I wanted to do. Right? It's kind of like it's kind of like saying like I forget about an example. That's pretty good. But yeah, question.
Your question?
Like with the toothbrush, you don't really have to ask
it's
a question. Shallow for rub.
I will go to the rub, but I just wanted to break it down to where, what am I down? Where am I asking?
The thing is that
some things are easier than others, like turning the key.
Because I learned like with the toothbrush, the main problem is washing it afterwards, because you're preparing for your next use, and usually it's for after Shabbos. So you're preparing for after Shabbos. Washing your toothbrush. That was one of the big opinions.
That's a minor problem. You don't have to wash it. You don't have to wash it.
Yeah, they tell our child to brush your teeth. You can't like rinse off your toothbrush.
Oh, okay. Right. Not so much washing, but just rinsing unconsciously.
Yeah, but that's the problem with anything in the house. Technically, it's not a. I mean, technically, washing dishes altogether is a problem. But washing, I would think that's probably not such a big problem because you just don't have to wash it.
You only wash dishes that you need them because you know you're going to use them for the next Shabbos meal. But that last Shabbos meal where you know you're not going to use them again, you don't wash them.
Right, you're not allowed to wash them because that's
right.
Funny.
If you're not going to use them on Shabbos, you can't wash them. Assuming you don't have any other dishes.
Right, you're only allowed to wash something that you're going to use.
You
use still on Shabbos, otherwise you're preparing for Shabbos.
Right, and you're not going to use a sponge. You have to.
Right. So if that were the issue, I would say, that's definitely, she's right about that. That would be definitely a problem if you're relying on that the Moshe Feinstein, you're brushing your teeth and you're washing that afterwards. If you're going to be using it for the next day in the morning, that's fine. You're preparing for the next day. If you're doing it for after Shabbos, then that would be a chana for sure. Yeah.
What about turning on the faucet and hot water?
Okay, that's a good question. If the hot water is connected to, if the water is connected to a water heater which runs on electricity or gas, and by you opening the hot water, what happens is there's a void that's going to be created in the hot water, in the water heater, and more water is coming in until you start getting cooked, and it's going to actually trigger the electric current or the gas to start heating. That would be a roundabout way of causing to light a fire or bishul or whatever it is. So that would be a problem. So unless you disconnect the water heater, unless you unplug it before Shabbos.
What about, how does it work in a building? I'm okay. In a house, I heard. You have in a building.
A big apartment building that's not predominantly Jewish. In a
building on Shabbos, I'm not aware of the reason why there'd be a heter. Because if even though I don't know the difference of a massive amount of water, a little bit of water, the issue here is if the issue is you're triggering electric the steam to start cooking. I personally lived in a big large building when I first got married several times I did, and I never came across that. It never occurred to me there is such a hazard on that.
So you never use hot water?
On Shabbos we don't use hot water. Yeah, even in a big building. Now, if a Rav told you differently, then I'm just a regular. I was after this class. I'm only giving you guys. I would say that most Shabbos you have to ask a Rav. So a Rav is someone who has we say siyata shmaya, right? Even though I just came back to Crown Heights and the Rav Crown Heights is a classmate of mine. But on the other hand, when someone is elected as a Rav, he has the authority because he was elected. He has a certain siyata shmaya, which means help assistance from heaven say the right thing.
Even if you have to wash the baby, if you have to wash the baby from the baby.
Right. If you let you. So.
What are you doing that?
Yeah. So the thing is this. If you need to wash a baby, if you have a hot water urn, you can use that. You mix it with cold water.
Cool it down.
You definitely. So.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You had a question about the Kelly Shani and.
Oh, please show us.
Not a specific question.
Okay, so let's get back to Shabbos. Let's get back to Shabbos. Is there any other? There's three issues without the question. Yes.
I think there was a question that somebody had about tights, but that seems very rough.
You can ask questions about it now.
Anything you want? No, I'm just trying to remember the questions. I had last night.
Right down,
I had a problem last night. Last night was Mittel. Mittel was the night of 24th of December.
Did you go?
Yeah, so the night of the 24th of December when I was in Torah. So basically,
right.
So I couldn't. So I had to wait till after midnight to get these questions. I was already half asleep. So, Okay, so
what was the other one? Some of the sneakers questions I have are definitely going to be raw questions. They're not basic at all. And actually, I have more curiosity questions than anything else. But,
okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you what's the custom in Chabad, or if you, but otherwise, I can speak of that. There's nothing else I can do to Risha Kushani. If you wanted, there's nothing else that you wanted to discuss.
I don't know. Could we go get a book and just learn something from a book? I don't know.
The only thing, carrying a key on Shabbos. How can you carry a key on Shabbos
Okay,
without the belt? Outside of a belt,
right.
What are your other options?
So the spell is only key on Shabbos. Right? You're not allowed to carry anything on Shabbos, right? So the only way we can carry on Shabbos something is if it's a part of our clothing or an ornament. So for men have the option of the belt because a man is wearing tzitzis uses a belt. If the man is not wearing tzitzis, there's no heter for him either. I don't know what heter is for a man to wear a belt. Now for a woman to wear a belt, it's a problem also because there's no reason why she would wear that type of a belt. In other words, the rubber thing. So what Rabbi Elazar says, it would have to be a decorative type of belt. Otherwise, to carry a key on Shabbos, I'm not aware of any real way unless it's a nice key that you can make an earring out of it or something.
So what about pins, or people have pins and they wear their key on a pin?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any such heter because that unless the key is literally a part of the ornament, I don't know how they even manufacture that. I don't know if they do manufacture that. It's adding on. It's adding. In other words, you can't add something on to an ornament and make it consider it's not part of the ornament. It's just the key. So I'm not aware of any sort of heter of that nature, and I would definitely I've not seen it in practice. So the thing is that you have to either hide it somewhere, or you could use a try to get a decorative type of belt. Anyway, so is there anything else you wanted to discuss? Anything? No, we don't have to. We can finish out. I think there's some conclusions to change. Yeah.
So, I keep it between milk and meat. I keep an hour, but a rabbi told me that you only have to just swallow your mouth out with water between milk and meat, and then you're fine. Like obviously the rabbi, I trust what he said, but why then do you keep it? Some people keep half an hour, some people keep an hour. Why do you have to wait there?
Okay, that's a great question. Are you from England, I presume? Oh, okay. As the last communication group we had a girl who's from Holland. And Holland is a different mimic, a different custom. I just want to make sure I hear your accent. I want to make sure I'm talking to the entire world does it one way and Holland does it another way. So I just wanted to make sure who we're speaking to. In Judaism, mimic is very important. Custom is very important. And the reason why it is, which is one of the things that I thought we were going to talk about here with Leah, I guess it's okay. It's better that a woman should talk about it, not me. But one of the things about it is interesting that even though it's 100%, even though for example, al pi halacha, you're allowed to show a particular part of your body, or you're allowed to wear particular types of clothes, al pi halacha, al pi din. But if the minhag is not like that, in that place, then you're not allowed to do it in that place. I even saw an answer in English Kodesh that said that there's certain places in the world that women don't drive. And the Rebbe says in those places not seen for women to drive. Now I don't know where exactly that is. It's definitely not here. But the point is that there's something tznius means that so minhag is very powerful. So the reference to keeping milk and meat, so things like this. The halacha is that the only problem of waiting is you have to wait from meal to meal, like from one suda to the next suda, or so is machlokes, and that it means 6 hours, it means from one meal to the next meal, whatever it is. We paskin it means 6 hours, right? Like the Rambam and Shulchan Aruch. But the only time that you have that problem is when it's meat. And there are two reasons given why you'd have to wait for meat. Either because, or the Rambam's reason, because it's very against the usually the teeth doesn't get out so easily. But it's like, the flesh is going to be in your teeth and you're not going to get it out. And it's going to take 6 hours for the saliva to decompose that meat in your teeth. Or because of the Torah says the reason is because it's the grease of the meat is going to leave a residue in your throat, and therefore it's going to be like the meat is still there. It takes 6 hours for that residue to go away. So these are the two reasons given for meat. Now those reasons don't apply for any other foods, except for perhaps certain types of cheeses, which certain types of cheeses are fall into the category of not the first reason, but the second reason, because it's very strong aftertaste of meat, that the grease. So that we have that in old cheeses as well, that type of aftertaste. So there is something called 6-hour cheeses. There are some places in the world that some rabbis are very strict. They say any hard cheese is a 6-hour cheese. Like for example, in Montreal, the Rabbi Hendel there said that his opinion was very, very strict opinion that any hard cheese, except for maybe American cheese, was a 6-hour cheese. Now, but otherwise, besides that strict opinion, most other places in the world say that only a Swiss cheese or an aged cheese, like the types you might find if you're having a cheese tasting party in France, like the ones with holes in them, the blue ones, and I don't know what. But most other cheeses, like mozzarella and cheddar, most other cheeses are not 6-hour cheeses, and any dairy product for that matter is not something you have any problem with. So then, what is the halacha? The halacha is to wash out your mouth, and that's it. Wash out your mouth. Now, the Ramah brings the interesting. The Ramah says it no, that he brings from the Zohar of all places. And interesting because the Zohar is opinion Torah. Here we see that the halacha, what it says in Kabbalah, actually changes the halacha. It's interesting for those people who don't, because we obviously in Chassidus we're very into opinion Torah, the inner secrets of the Torah. But there's some people in Judaism that are very against studying opinion Torah, or used to be at least. And for those people, it's kind of a chiddush, kind of a new thing. That here we see that no, the Ramah is not embarrassed to bring it in and say, no, the Zohar says this, therefore we do this. The Zohar says that even between milk and meat, even between dairy products and meat, we have to wait. We have to wait. Also, we have to wait. We have to wait an hour. And he says the word. If I'm not mistaken, I think the word he uses is I think he used the word shah. If I'm not mistaken, which is interpreted to mean hour. But the main thing is that we also have. He says we have to wait based on the Zohar, and therefore for all dairy products we wait this amount of time. Now, this is not something that Shulchan Aruch does not bring this halacha. The Ramah brings the halacha. Not necessarily is that, and the Ramah brings it as a minhag, as a custom. So that means that not necessarily did everyone accept the custom. Now, I'm not aware of in other words, since that's what the Ramah brings as a custom, I would say most religious Jews keep this custom. However, if you meet someone who did not keep the custom, because don't forget that not all, the custom is very important. And actually, for a custom is a very important thing. And not everything in Shulchan Aruch, for example, sometimes the Shulchan Aruch with a Sephardic rabbi says one thing, and the Ramah adds another opinion, the Ashkenazic view, and a lot of times we'll find that not every time many Sephardic Jews do not follow by the Ramah's practice or custom. And sometimes we'll find that even Ashkenazi Jews don't find, because sometimes there are later rabbis who argue on that and revert back to the Mechaber, Shulchan Aruch, or there's another custom. So the point I'm trying to say is that we don't criticize people's customs. On the other hand, if someone is becoming religious and they're coming through me, through my Chabad, through my teaching, so I'm going to teach them my custom and they would adopt my custom. I can't teach them any other custom which is not part of my life, right? So it all depends on how you're entering, which is I would say 99% of the time, this is the custom that you're going to keep, because this is the accepted by most, a huge majority of all the Jewish people, and therefore I'm not even aware of what other minhag there is of not keeping that minhag, although there might be, so I don't want to say. But I would just say that so you should know that you're doing the right thing because that's what it says in the Zohar, and that's what it says in the Ramah, and that's what your custom is. And if someone else is just rinsing out the mouth, then they're following halacha. They're okay according to halacha, and they maybe have another minhag, another custom, and there's no reason to be critical of them or yeah. And for example, also can rely on this head there sometimes. For example, for young children. The young children, for example, I don't really wait for them for 6 hours most of the time. My kids, and the problem is it's very difficult to control them. The young children will go into the kitchen, will help themselves to a drumstick, and we're having pizza that night, right? And it happens all the time in my house. I have to put a lock and chain on the door. But the thing is that so it depends how young the child is. Children they're not anyways chayv in mitzvahs. So they're you don't have to. In other words, so it's all chinuch anyway. So the question is how So the general thing is based on their age. That's how long you wait. So if they're 3 years old, you only wait 3 hours. So some people say even that you don't have to wait. Sometimes the thing is also between milk and meat also is something that with children generally, young children, I am not that careful on if it's unless I'm able to, but otherwise I'm not so careful on that. Yeah. Any question?
I guess two things. One, what does it say in the Zohar to bring that opinion? I mean, what is the Zohar basing it that we take that? And is it then it's a minhag as it's a custom versus say a fence? It's not there to prevent us because some things are fences. This is more of an actual.
Right. Well, I would say that I want to stress that doesn't just because something is a custom doesn't mean it's any less important. On the contrary, a minhag is a custom is extremely important in a way even more important. What is the Zohar based it on? I'm not. I'll tell you the truth. I only learned the halachic aspect of it. I really learned in the Zohar with the various. The other thing is the Zohar itself is very cryptic. Not necessarily would be stressed. I would say it has to do. I would say that just speaking. I wish it wouldn't be recorded right now, but I would be more open. But I would say
you don't have to go.
I would just say that it probably has to do with the spheres, with chesed and gvura, and mixing of the two. And I would say it probably has something to do with that. But I don't know. It's not my. I don't know. So the bottom line is that you should wash it. It's true that you should wash out your mouth. And if it's an hour, we generally say you don't have to wash out your mouth. So that's the thing. Any other question? All right, that's great. I'm not the question. So basically, so what I'll do is with the Shabbos issue, for the Shabbos Kusheni, I think we should. I started a Shabbos class, never really, and we never really kind of finished it. So I think maybe we should have like a class just for that, because that's like a little bit involved with, and I think it's appropriate. We can do it with all the students here, no problem. So hopefully we'll get around to it. Mrs. Lokovska, Mrs. Razy, whoever's in charge, try to do that, put it together.
Can you say anything about Tzniut? One thing that you think is important?
I would just say that we have to. I would just say to know that tzniut is a really really important thing, mostly for the woman herself. It's really really important to realize it, because most people don't realize how women got a really really bad rap in this society. Women are really it's really not fair. People think that women's liberation and everything, but in essence, it's really women are really, it's really not fair how women are treated in this society. I'm not talking about I'm speaking here about that it's really really tragic. I find it very tragic for women who are secular, because it's really quite sad. Their faith is very sad, because because in the end they're used, and they're the ones who are stuck with and they're not getting really what they need. What a woman really really needs, and forget about what the world thinks of a woman. Women need equality, and they need and whatever all that stuff is. And I'm not saying that women are equal. I mean they always were equal. What a woman needs the most is to be married, to have a husband, to be exclusively married, and to raise a family, and to have a true commitment and love, and not a good time like men. Men also need that, but for the man, it's not as tragic. He doesn't have it. So for a secular man, it's so be alone in his life. He'll be so. But for a woman, I think it's much more tragic, because a woman needs to have a child. Man really doesn't. It's not a part of his life. So the whole way outlook, the whole way things work in this secular world, really, really are tragic for women. And we have to about tzniut. We have to realize that the tzniut is not just something that is limited. People look at it like it's how difficult it is and how whatever, and it's not fair. Men have problems, and women have to cover themselves, and but the thing is that it's really really not the case. It's really spiritually important for a woman. Because when Hashem created Chava, he took her. It says he took her from Adam's body, right? So it says he didn't take her from his head, because then she would be like headstrong. He didn't create Chava from his hand, because then she'd be like always trying to grab stuff and whatever it is, right? He didn't want to take. It goes on and on, all his entire body. It says, where did he take her from? From his rib, from his selah, whatever the selah means, the machlikas, whatever. And he says, why? Because that's something that's always covered. It's something that all the organs cover, that flesh covers that, it's covered. And when he took her from when he operated on Adam, Hashem was the first surgeon in history. So in surgery, he also had anesthesia, put it out to see clearly the Torah, and he took out that rib, selah, whatever, and he took it, and it's supposed to be always covered. It's covered in Adam, and then every part, every organ, every part of the body that he created from that, as he formed Chava, he said, "Bitzanua." Every single part of her, Hashem ordered that it remain covered. It says the beauty of a woman. It says that we say that kol kvuda bas melech plima. The beauty of the kavod and the beauty of the Bas Melech, of the daughter of the king, is pnimis, inside. When something is outside and portrayed, and it's not pretty. Prettiness means when you're covering something, right? Then it really it's something interesting. Something is covered, right? So the bottom line is we have to realize that we have to look at tznius as a beautiful, as a way of embodiment of how a person. This is how a woman is truly beautiful. And we have to realize that we have to. This is the also another thing that the Rebbe says is sending the right message. Because especially let's say a woman is not married, right? So a woman is not married and she's not tzanua. So what is the message she's saying about herself? What is the message that she's? I mean, we all in life we are all statements. I learned that from coming to New York. So I lived in Miami for the past 14 years, and in Miami, in Florida is much different. New York, you walk into it, you come to work. The first thing you do is looking you up and down. The first thing is like everything. Everywhere you walk outside, you're making a statement. I'm not really into this, but my wife is like, someone's like walking down the street, and my wife's like, wow, she's just so loud. What's so loud about her? It's like, or that person is just so he's wearing a bright yellow suit like that. It's so loud. You know what I'm saying? We have this concept in cell phones. When we type something in capital letters. Once by mistake, I was typing something in capital. My phone got locked in. I was typing capitals, and someone said, "Why are you yelling?" I'm just typing. I'm not even it's scat. So so there's something. In other words, even though you're not talking, but you're making a statement. So the way you dress is a statement about yourself. And tznius doesn't mean to be ugly. Tznius doesn't mean to be unattractive. That's not what it means. That's why people always say, well, why do married women wear a sheitel? Right? It's like, and they're so beautiful. These wigs are so beautiful. They're more beautiful than their hair regular. So isn't that the opposite of tznius? It's like the very opposite of what tznius is trying to accomplish, right? And actually, just now in Miami, I got attacked by these Bukhari. There's a bunch of Bukhari people that I visit. I put on phone with their husbands. Now that some of them are becoming religious, and the Sephardic rabbi said no shaitels, no, and the Ashkenazi rabbi said no shaitels. Only Chabad said the Rebbe says shaitels. The Rebbe says it's a mitzvah. Suddenly, people came along and said no, you can't wear a shaitel. Why? It's too beautiful. It's too attractive. It's too beautiful. So the Rebbe says that's not a problem. Where does it say a woman has to be ugly? That's not what it says. That's not what it says, right? People misunderstand this concept. Tznius doesn't mean to be not beautiful or not to be attractive. That's not what it means. It means to be modest about the statement you're making about yourself, and to not show parts of the body or even the forms of the parts of the body in a way that would arouse someone's attention. That's what it means. Tznius doesn't always have to mean. I was interesting. When I got married, I learned a lot of stuff about this, and my wife pointed out to me that I didn't realize that a very long dress, a skirt down to the ground, mamish to the ground. There was once a girl walking down the street wearing a skirt down there. My wife said, "Oh, that's so sad that girl doesn't wear a dress like that." She's not seeing. It's like, not seeing. What's it not? I mean, she's totally covered, like down to the ground. The skirt is touching the ground. What's not seeing about that? My wife said, "No, that's not seeing. It's grub. It's not seeing."
It's what?
In Yiddish, grub. It's
not dignified.
How do you say grub? Grub is Yiddish. It means like it's a little tzanua. It's a little tzanua.
It was tight?
No, it wasn't tight. It was because it's on the ground. This is so down to the floor. Because it was down to the floor, it was a statement. It was not. So look. So here's the thing. I don't understand these things. I'm the last person to talk about tznius because I really don't understand. For me, it's like all brand new. Like I understand certain things. Like for example, it says a woman really shouldn't wear. For example, even if she's wearing a dress, totally tzanua, but if she's wearing lettering in certain places or certain pictures, bright color, like red, for example. So red, it says that in halakha a bright red, like fire engine red, is not tzanua. Now I kind of understand the idea of that. I understand. It depends. It says where, like you said, for example, it says the fingernails is okay, but not on the clothing. I'm not really quite sure if I understand the difference of the fingernails of the clothing. I don't really quite understand everything. For me, it's all like brand new. Like I'm just I just had my wife is very into it. And she tells me, and that's how I know. So I know what my daughter can wear and cannot wear because my wife says. I don't really quite understand it. But for example, let's say a slit up your skirt. So a slit. So technically, if you're wearing the right length, it's covering down to your calves and everything's fine. But the slit is drawing attention, right? Even if it's not open, an open slit, but the fact that it's a little bit open, and so it's drawing attention. So that's not tanua, right? Even though it's a kosher, everything's tanua. So it's really important in Sniya. It's number one, when we spoke about before, that she was talking. What was your name, by the way? Rebecca, Rivka. Oh, Chai Rivka. So Chai Rivka said that before we're talking about minig. So same idea over here, that it's really important when it comes to Tzniya. Minig is a very important thing. Like for example, if you were living in Tehran, and you were walking down the street, the way you're dressed now, that might not be Tzniya, right? Because those women are like just, I don't know, they're totally covered in just the eyes and like whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it all depends on the place. It all depends on the place. You don't want to be different from the way women. You want to be different from the way women are. Now, I'm not saying that it's better to live in Iran. Those are pretty nutty there. But the point is that we don't want a woman the beauty of the woman is sanua to be not to make a statement different, be less. And a very interesting thing I was reading last night. Amazing thing that in a place, for example, we have different opinions let's say, for example, covering the feet or covering. For example, there's some places where they believe, some rabbis, that there's some Sephardic rabbis that say that when it says the zroa, the arm, it means till the wrist. So in certain communities, women have to cover themselves till the wrists. Now we have the opinion that no, that it only means till the elbow. So we want, as long as your elbows are covered, and as long as it's covered enough that it should be when you raise your hand, it's not going to fall down or something. You know what I'm saying? So as long as it's covered enough, it's okay because we don't want to reveal the elbow. From the elbow and up is the problem. But if you're in a place that they interpret it as meaning till the wrist, it doesn't matter if the interpretation. See here, it doesn't matter if the interpretation is right or wrong. It doesn't matter what. It's the minig, and if that's the minig, then it's not sneeze for you to wear this. And to the extent, so I was reading last night. I don't know if this is halacha, by the way, because it's not a Chabad book, and I don't know quoting Mishnah Berurah. I don't know if this is the opinion that I go by, but I'm just going to mention it because it's mentioned halacha that a man cannot even daven. In other words, a man cannot learn and daven in front of a woman who's not tzanua. For example, if I would be talking to this class and someone would be not dressed appropriately, I wouldn't be able to be learning Torah, except for maybe the halacha of go get dressed, right? But other than that, I wouldn't be able to discuss Torah because it would be a problem because I'm not able to learn Torah in front of something that if you can see something not seen, right? So it says in such a place, if a woman would be dressed like that, it would be a shy, it would be a problem for a man to daven in the presence of this woman, even his own wife. That's the extent. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that it's very important. Again, question.
Yeah. So what are the boundaries you could say of tzniut in your house? Like coming out, like I know there's a lot of things, a lot of like details. I don't know if I can halachot. But even coming out of the shower, what you're allowed, like I know they said that once when a woman covered her hair and she had kohanim, there was a story.
Right.
So what is how you supposed?
Okay, so there's a question. So the thing is, again, if you want to stay in the ikad in the real halacha of it, so technically a person can go totally naked in their house. And as long as the windows are closed, no one's going to see. As long as there's no Sefer Torah, or no Sfarim, no Sidur, no Tanya, and the mezuzah has to be covered two coverings. Technically, al pi halacha, there's no problem for a woman to do this.
With all the mezuzah has to be covered.
Of course, yeah, the woman can do it. Right. The mezuzah would be like a safer. So if the mezuzah is a see-through mezuzah, which you see the shin, even though you'd have to cover it with another covering. If the mezuzah is shakuf, what's shakuf? Shakuf is see-through. No, so it's not shakuf. The mezuzah it has a tomb. Now, if you have like a hole, and you see the shin through it, the shin is a problem too. You'd have to put a white paper over the mezuzah, and you could write your shin again. You could write another shin on top of the white paper, but that would have to be covered. And with the white paper, with the plastic, with the case, that would be okay. Because even though one covering the shakuf is transparent, as long as one of them is white, it's okay.
Don't you have to always think Hashem is with you, even in private?
Oh, so hold on. So now that's the halacha. Now the minhag, and it says we see in the Gemara, even we see in Shulchan Aruch that it's highly praisable and laudable and extremely important that a woman should dress should be tznius all the time, and even a man, by the way, not just a woman, even a man. So a man should not walk around, even though a man can walk around whatever. But a man should also not. It says even when you sleep, it says a person should be covered, and if and at least with their blanket, and if they think their blanket might come off, they should wear something else. So they should wear something to cover. So that's something that's not just connected to a woman, but also to a man. That Hashem is everywhere, right? Shivisi Hashem and Hashem is wherever and always seeing me. Now Hashem sees you also under your blanket too, right? So the question, 1 second, He sees me under my blanket, He sees me under my clothes. It's like those airport things. The airport you walk in, and like someone's looking somewhere. I don't know. Like so, Hashem is looking. Doesn't need my clothes. So why am I hiding from Him? So the answer is that you're right. Hashem doesn't care what you look like anyway. He creates you all every second. The issue is that you have to be tzanua. You have to. Adam and Eve went to hide. Hashem went. You have to do what Adam and Eve did. You have to cover yourself because it's not respectful. There's a rabbi, the head rabbi in Italy, his name is Rabbi Green, and he goes to see the rabbi, Rabbi Green in Italy. Oh, you know Rabbi Green?
He comes and gives his class.
Oh, it's his father.
Oh.
His father is a very special rabbi, head rabbi of Italy, of Europe, of a lot of it. Rabbi Green's father. So I heard one of the story. When you go to see the rabbi, he never answers the rabbi. The rabbi would say to him, tell me the situation in your shul, how is it things in Milan or whatever, and whatever the rabbi would say to him. And he sit there, you call him quiet, he never answer. And he said, why? Because the rabbi's a tzaddik, the rabbi knows already. What did he even answer for? I'm not answering, the rabbi knows already. You know what I'm saying? The thing is that so I'm just giving you as an example that yes, there's a good point in what he was doing, but on the other hand, it's not respectful. You know what I'm saying? The rabbi asks you something, you answer, it doesn't matter the rabbi knows or not. You know what I'm saying? Hashem said to Adam, Ayaka, where are you? He knew where Adam was. So the same thing over here, that Hashem definitely knows what your body looks like. And Hashem knows, that it has see-through vision. He doesn't need to, in other words, you're covering yourself is not helping. But you have to cover yourself out of shame that you show that you are aware of Him. Right? And it says in the Gemara, if you would only look at Hashem, be afraid of Hashem as you are of a human being, would be in the room right now. If I'd be afraid of Hashem as I am of one person sitting in this room right now looking at me, it would be awesome, right? And all the students of Rabbi Yochanan Zaki said, that's all Hashem is? Then come on. He said, no, I really mean it. If you would be afraid of Hashem, have awe and respect for Hashem as you do it to another human being sitting in the room watching you, or even a person not in the room just looking at you with a camera, our life would be totally different, right? So we have to somehow realize that the awareness of Hashem's presence. When you dive into Hashem, you say you talk to Hashem, you're really talking to someone. Right? Hashem is really not just there's really someone there, right? Anyways, so there's a lot to talk about sneas. I'm not really the person to talk about it. I would say it's probably good for a woman to talk about it. And if something, there are issues of then there's more detailed issues of shaitel length and other things like that. That's definitely a shaila for Rav. I'm definitely not equipped to answer the question. Yeah, question.
So the whole idea of sneeze is not draw attention to yourself, right? Like you don't want someone to
right, and shame of right.
So let's say if someone lives in an area where there's a lot of non-Jews and it's summer and obviously people are walking around in very little clothing, surely being in the minority where and covering up, you're actually drawing attention to yourself.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so that's why I said I wanted to add to your word that drawing attention to yourself is one issue, but then there's an issue be'etzem. There's in other words, like for example, it says tavach be'isha erva. It says that any uncovered skin of a woman is considered erva, even though technically it's not going to draw any attention to anyone. Right? For example, hair of a married woman. Why is the hair of a married woman going to draw any attention more? A shaitel is going to draw a lot more attention, right? So the hair of a married woman is not just because it's going to draw attention. It's not sneeze. It's supposed to be covered. It's a body part that must be covered for a married woman. Why is it sneeze for a married? Why is it not sneeze for a married woman? For an unmarried woman, it is sneeze. So that's another question. It's another question. It's not about being pretty or drawing attention. It's about that too. It's about drawing attention to another issue. But there's things that just have to be covered. So the body has to be covered regardless of attention or not attention, right? If you're outside, people can see it, and there's any man around, or possibly a man around, that has to be covered out of tznius, whether it's drawing attention or not. But yes, there is an important thing to realize when we're talking about, let's say, a sheitel, for example. So a lot of people have, well, sheitels are so beautiful. So the thing is like this: if you're wearing a sheitel that, like for example, they have a very, very extremely long sheitel, like a movie star. So that's a question of tznius. Yes, that is a question. That's a problem. Why? Oh, you're all covered, everything's covered, and fine. Yeah, but it's going down to your rear end, and that you're trying to be. That's drawing attention. You know what I'm saying? If a sheitel is too long, that's drawing attention. Having a very beautiful sheitel, beauty is important. It's good to be beautiful. It's fine. Beauty is fine to be beautiful. The question is to go different than to go beyond. And there's something like we said before, like a skirt going down to the floor. That's just it's a grubka. That's prust. We say in Yiddish it's prust. It's coarse because it's the way. It's not the way that it's not the modest way to dress, even though everything's covered. So that's it. But I would just say in reference to in the summertime, we have to realize that whether you could think that, well, if everyone walking down the street is dressed this way, so I'll dress that way and I'm not drawing attention. The answer is no. But it doesn't matter attention or not attention. It's not tznius because parts of the body that are supposed to be covered are being uncovered. That's another inyan and tznius, another matter which is not related to. Unless you're in the privacy of your own house, no one's there. And then as we said before, that then there's an issue of api halacha, it's okay, but it's definitely very highly said that that the person should definitely cover himself even when they sleep, and even at night, even in a dark room, etc. Okay, so I guess we'll stop over here, yeah, I think that tznius is an important issue for everyone, for all the other students, but it's probably something that maybe better a woman should speak about.
Thank you. Oh. Stop.